Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. My friend Mindy with Temples of Jesus channel sent me this article from New York Post. NASA group launches defense probe to protect Earth from Manhattan-size comet. This was published on the 23rd. And this thing, they don't know if it's a comet, by the way, but 3I Atlas, which is an interstellar object, is coming through our solar system right now. I'm watching it very closely because Joseph Smith said that the sign of the Son of Man would appear as though it was a comet or a planet or something like that. Well, this thing, and I've been trying to keep track of asteroids and meteors and comets ever since I started this channel. We're going to look at my spreadsheet for that in just a minute. This one is the strangest by far, and I feel like it's the best candidate to be the sign of the Son of Man. I'll show you all the new things that I've added to the spreadsheet. It is so bizarre. Okay, a NASA coordinated group has reportedly begun efforts to observe comet 3I Atlas after it was seen emitting a never-before-seen alloy and exhibiting other strange behaviors. The cosmic anomaly, a Manhattan-sized interstellar object that potentially has alien tech, has been added to the list of threats by the International Asteroid Warning Network, a worldwide coalition of space experts who collaborate to detect and monitor potentially hazardous asteroids and near-Earth objects to assess their potential impacts to our planet. Okay, before we continue with the article, for anyone that's new to the channel, or maybe you just haven't watched any of my videos where I cover this, we're going to go back and see what Joseph Smith said about the sign of the Son of Man. This is on my spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z. It's currently row 542. There's been a few things said about it, but I'm interested in this version right here. This is in History of the Church, but you can also find it on the Joseph Smith Papers website. And we're just going to go down to the bottom here where he's talking about it. He says, "Then will appear one grand sign of the Son of Man in heaven. But what will the world do? They will say it is a planet, a comet, etc. But the Son of Man will come as the sign of the coming of the Son of Man, which will be as the light of the morning cometh out of the east." Again, I just want to remind you, in my mind, what he's talking about is some kind of object, and it seems like it's just Christ himself with the resurrected saints, the city of Enoch, approaching the earth, which is why it appears to get larger and larger. And then once it is above Earth, Earth continues to rotate, and so from our point of view, it would look like it's coming from the east. I could be wrong, I don't know. But this is what he said, and it's interesting because 3I Atlas, they don't know if it's a comet. That's kind of the consensus, but others feel that it could be a planetary body, which does not necessarily mean a planet per se. But planets are part of this category of celestial bodies called planetary bodies that include moons, planets, large asteroids, and stuff like that. So this thing really seems to fit the bill, I think. We also should take into account what President Wilford Woodruff said. I did a video, at this point it looks like it was a month ago, about this swarm of 7 comets. And that would include 3I Atlas if it is a comet. There's a swarm of seven comets that are coming close to Earth right now. Okay. And Wilford Woodruff, he's the only one that has said this. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but you can find this in Journal of Discourses. He's having a vision, and he says, "I saw 7 golden lamps set in the heavens, representing the various dispensations of God to man, a sign that would appear before the coming of Christ." Now, you do have scriptures that talk about 7 lamps, specifically, well, I guess one scripture, Revelation 4:5, and this is not talking about um, like a physical appearance of anything. It's symbolic. But the way that Wilford Woodruff talks, it sounds like he maybe saw something else, and it's supposed to be in the heavens, and that it's an actual phenomenon of 7 golden lamps, whatever that means. Is it these comets that includes 3i Atlas? I don't know. But strange things are happening right now. So let's dig into, what's this never before seen alloy, and what are the other strange behaviors? All right, continuing, 3i Atlas prompted an IAWN campaign to hone members' detection skills and prep Earth for a potential threat from beyond. Got to skip down a little ways. The celestial object, which was first noticed on July 1st, has notably displayed a host of unusual characteristics that seem to defy normal comet behavior. Again, I told you we're going to go through this whole list. This is my spreadsheet called Signs, Comets, Meteors, Asteroids. We're going to be looking at rows 27 all the way up to, my gosh, I guess 8. We're going to skip these two because these are 2 different comets. But here's all my sources over here. I'm not just making this up. You can verify this yourself. Column L is all my references. There is a lot. That is strange. And here's some of the new things. Okay. These included an anti-tail, which that's something I already knew about. I just didn't have it on the spreadsheet. A jet of particles that points toward the sun instead of away from it, as typical. So normal comets, they have a tail. The tail faces away from the sun. 3i Atlas has a tail that did, at least at one point, point toward the sun. Now, it seems that has changed. This is an article from 2 days ago. I'm recording this on Friday the 24th. And it just talks about the fact that it switched. It says the anti-tail from 3i Atlas towards the sun observed during July and August 2025 turned into a tail in September 2025. So at one point it was facing toward the sun, and then it switched for some reason. And I've heard theories that have said that if this is like an alien spacecraft or something like that, it could be some kind of maneuvering technique, But anyway, look at this right here in red. The comet also emitted a plume that contained 4 grams of nickel per second with no evidence of iron, a phenomenon unheard of in comets. The alloy, nickel tetracarbonyl, has previously been witnessed only in human manufacturing, Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb told the Post. Okay, so I take from this that normally comets have iron in when they emit plumes. I don't know if that's referring to the tail, but it says no evidence of iron, 4 grams of nickel per second, in that it's not just nickel, it's an alloy, which has only been witnessed in human manufacturing. And this is coming from what we believe to be a natural object, some celestial body from somewhere else. So that is very strange. Loeb also mentioned the object's non-gravitational acceleration and anomalous trajectory that will bring it suspiciously close to Jupiter, Venus, and Mars, which he pointed out in a somewhat far-fetched paper could indicate that it was an alien probe sent to do recon on Earth. Okay, so non-gravitational acceleration and an anomalous trajectory. Now, I have heard of a natural type of non-gravitational acceleration one time with Oumuamua, which was the first observed interstellar object in space. It accelerated as it was leaving the solar system, and it seems like the consensus is that it's because there were gases that were, I don't know, heating up and expanding and pushing Oumuamua and accelerating it. So, but still, this is kind of unusual, and he points that out. Later on, IAWN will be conducting a comet campaign from November 27th through January 27th to refine methods of pinpointing Atlas' exact location. Quote, to prepare for the campaign, we will hold a workshop on techniques to correctly measure comet astrometry, a transformation without a change to a figure's shape or size, such as rotation or reflection, they wrote. Needless to say, the development had ex-users quaking in their boots. Quote, they're calling it a test of improved astrometry methods, fretted one. In other words, the object isn't behaving like it should. End quote. Thankfully, IAWN is currently treating the drill not like a call to enact interplanetary defenses, but rather a guide for stargazers hoping to get a better view. Later on, ultimately, the fact that IAWN activated its comet campaign, quote unquote, indicates to the scientists that 3I Atlas, which astronomers concluded could measure 28 miles across, might not be a harmless comet. Quote, if 3I Atlas is a massive mothership, it will likely continue along its original gravitational path and ultimately exit the solar system, Loeb shared in a Sunday blog post. So, I don't know, for one reason or another, they just want to, I guess, track it better and maybe just take a closer look because it's so strange. Okay, so let's go over the list of strange things about this object. This is my timeline that I've compiled. So we had the initial discovery on July 1st. They went through the data before July 1st through what's called pre-covery of data, because it's not like you have somebody sitting there every second of the day looking at all the data as it comes in. Once they discover something, you can go back through the data and see what may have been missed. And so that's what they did. And they discovered that 3I Atlas suddenly became five times brighter from the 3rd of June until May 7th. It's been noted that if it is a comet, it's the fastest comet ever discovered at 130 miles per hour or 209 kilometers per hour. We talked about the anti-tail. And then a little bit more recently, this has been pointed out that the location in the sky from which this object comes from the same location of the 1977 WOW signal. You may or may not be familiar with that, but you know that there have been efforts to try and detect signals from other star systems, from extraterrestrial sources. And there was this anomaly in 1977, and this is called the WOW signal. So let's just take a look at this. This is kind of interesting. The WOW signal was a strong narrowband radio signal detected on August 15th, 1977 by Ohio State University's Big Ear Radio Telescope in the United States, then used to support the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or SETI. The signal appeared to come from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius and bore expected hallmarks of extraterrestrial origin. Astronomer Jerry R. Emin discovered the anomaly a few days later while reviewing the recorded data. On the computer printout, he circled the reading of the signal's intensity, 6EQUJ5, and wrote the comment, "Wow," beside it, leading to the event's widely used name. So you can see the signal right here, the way that it was recorded with these instruments. And really quick, I just learned by looking at this for the first time. You have like this, these codes right here. It goes from 1 to 9 and then A through U. And I don't know, maybe it goes all the way to Z, but on this scale, 1 through 9, A through U, and these codes are the signal to noise ratio. And so, you have the instrument detecting signals, and then it gives it these codes. And so if you put it on a graph, this is what it looked like. So it looked really dramatic. And so that's why why he was like, "Wow," and wrote that on the paper. It's interesting because I've known about this for a while, but now that I'm doing this channel, I'm like, oh, wow, that was no pun intended. Oh, wow. That was in 1977. And we're always talking about sevens on this channel. And one thing about 77, it always makes me think of two things. One is Brigham Young, because he passed away August 29th of 1877. Kind of interesting because this is something that took place almost exactly 200 years later, August, although it's the 15th, August of 1977. So August 1877, August 1977. Also, the St. George, Utah temple, which is the longest temple in operation in the church, right? Because you had the Kirtland temple, but then it went into other hands. You had the Nauvoo temple, but then it was destroyed. This is the longest operating temple in the church, the St. George, Utah temple. And guess what? It was dedicated April 6th, 1877. And then in August 1877, we had this, this story, or I've done a video about it before, but you probably already know this. August 1877, Wilford Woodruff, then the temple president, recorded that the spirits of eminent historical figures manifested themselves to him in the temple and requested that ordinances be performed on their behalf. These eminent historical figures were like the founding fathers of the United States and previous presidents of the United States. So I don't know, just interesting. I'm not saying that they're connected, but 200 years later, you have this wow signal. And now we have this strange interstellar object that's coming from where the wow signal originated, or just roughly that part of the sky. Okay, so we got that. Okay, it's been noted that the trajectory is unusual. The trajectory of 3i Atlas is aligned to within 5 degrees with the ecliptic plane of the planets around the sun. I think what that means is when you think about the disk around the sun, where most planets and objects orbit around the sun, the trajectory of 3i Atlas is like pretty close to that. I think that's what that means. And so I guess that's unusual. Okay, the next one, 3i Atlas is about 1 million times more massive than Oumuamua. Now that's news to me, but that's according to this right here, this article by Avi Loeb in Medium, October 19th, 2025, the imminent solar conjunction of 3i Atlas. So 1 million times more massive than Oumuamua, and 1,000 times more massive than 2i Borisov. So the first interstellar object that we noted, at least like according to our science, the first one that we've observed and knew it was from interstellar space was Oumuamua. The second one was comet Borisov. And now we have 3i Atlas. And 3i Atlas is much larger than these other ones. Okay, the next thing, the gas plume only contains 4% water. Water is a primary constituent of other comets. So you guys, the stuff coming off this quote unquote comet or whatever it is not like other comets. You got the nickel alloy. You have the absence of water where there should be much more water. And there's more. Let's continue. Let's see. Yeah, this was a big one, and we've already talked about this. July 21st. 3i Atlas is observed to be emitting its own light. Right? Comets don't do that. They looked at the light signature of this thing, and it just didn't make sense that it was reflecting light. The conclusion, at least by some, is that it's the nucleus itself, not the coma, not the tail or anti-tail, but the nucleus itself was emitting its own light. Okay. We already talked about this, the transition from the anti-tail to the regular tail. We have this, coma plasma growth observed, which, according to these experts, I guess that's unusual. There was this paper written, extreme negative polarization of new interstellar comet, 3i Atlas, written by all these people up here. So, coma plasma growth. And then part of that same study, they said that there was this unusual how do you pronounce that? Polarimetric behavior observed. Unlike comets, asteroids, and other celestial objects. So that has to do with, like it says, like the polarization of light. You know how there's like polarized glasses and stuff, like where light waves, they go in certain directions and you can filter out the different directions. So they did a measurement of 3i Atlas, and its polarimetric signature is unusual compared to other objects like comets, asteroids, and other celestial objects. Okay, and then here's the next thing that's weird about it, about like what it's emitting as far as like nickel and the lack of water. It says, first observation that it is now glowing green despite being depleted of carbon. Because carbon is what would make it green. So just its makeup, what it's emitting and what it's not emitting, and the materials that make it up, it's not matching what we're used to. We got the closest approach to Mars that was on October 2nd. By the way, just as a side note, this is not having to do with 3i Atlas necessarily, but as part of this comet swarm of 7 comets, or 7 golden lamps, if that's what it is, we had these 2 comets one day after another that was visible from Earth to the naked eye. And that's not common at all. Not from what I can tell. This is relatively unusual. Kind of makes me think of these 2 prophets, President Nelson and President Oaks. It's happening around this time. Okay, and then we talked about the nickel and how this nickel alloy has only ever been found or observed in human manufacturing. It's coming off 3i Atlas. This one talks about the non-gravitational acceleration in anomalous trajectory. Perihelion, or its closest approach to the sun, is going to be on the 30th. And then closest approach to Earth is on the 19th of December. There was one person that wrote in and said that it's going to be on Christmas Day, but I haven't found anything to back that up. So if you ever send me anything, make sure that you include your source so that I can verify it and then update my information as necessary. But I checked, and everything that was pulling up said that the closest approach to Earth is going to be December 19th. So this is a long list of unusual characteristics. Okay. Just by comparison, I have tracked other, asteroids and comets and stuff like that. For example, 12P Pons Brooks for a while was looking really strange, but it was clearly a comet, but it was doing some unusual things. It was changing shape and color. It had an unusual shape, but none of what I've collected so far, none of it compares to 3i Atlas. 3i Atlas by far is the best candidate that we've seen so far for the sign of the Son of Man. So we'll just have to see. We'll just have to wait and see. These red highlights here, these are new things, or well, at least they're new to my spreadsheet, things that I didn't have on there before. So this article by Avi Loeb called The Imminent Solar Conjunction of 3i Atlas. One of his theories is that it could be an alien spacecraft. And he talks about how there's this thing called the O-berth maneuver, where in space travel, at least space travel that we're familiar with, you use the gravitational fields of celestial bodies like a planet or moon or sun. And at certain points, you use the gravity to help slingshot your vehicle. So there's certain points where you would want to turn on the thrusters to get the maximum acceleration and thrust and everything. It's called the O-berth maneuver. And so he's saying here that I guess on or around October 29th, that's going to be the optimal time for 3i Atlas to do an O-berth maneuver if it's not a natural object, if it's extraterrestrial. So I guess in other words, if we see some kind of acceleration around this time, then that would be a clue that they were doing an O-berth maneuver. So the point is we want to keep an eye on this and see what happens. This story is not over yet. It's already strange enough that, we start seeing all these interstellar objects starting, in 2017. And really, it kind of goes back further. They have these objects numbered 1, 2, and 3. But these seem to be objects that have remained in space and have not crashed to Earth. I do have this back in 2014. By the way, 14 is a multiple of 7. Back in 2014, we had this meteor that crashed to Earth, CNEOS 2014-0108, also known as IM1. I'm guessing that the I stands for interstellar. But this was something that crashed to Earth that they believe is of interstellar origin. So we have that 2014. We have Oumuamua 2017. And then we have 2I Borisov just 2 years later. And now in 2025, we have a third one. And this is the strangest one by far. You guys, these are signs in the heavens at the very least. At the very least, these are signs in the heavens. Signs, let me just remind you, in the scriptures, you very often you have the term signs and wonders. A wonder is something that causes awe. It's something, that you haven't seen before. All these things are causing awe. They're wondrous. And there's been other things, but I'm not going to cover it all here. We've seen some other unusual things, but this one is the strangest by far. It stands apart. Okay, that's going to be for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.